Hello, I hope you're doing well. In this segment, we're going to sit down with the films and see how we can use them and incorporate design into our project process. Guys, the films are a website and an application that we can use to create the wireframe or prototype we want. It's a tool that is available both on the web, so I can start and work with it, and I can also download its app. I can do the design with it. My suggestion is to definitely download the app, log in, and it gives you a lot for free that you can use. If you want more, you can change your email and move on to the next one. Also, when I install the app, I can add new fonts, including Persian ones, meaning when I install fonts on my Windows or Mac, the app itself will recognize those fonts as well. I can create a better design. And overall, its speed can also be improved. And generally, guys, Figma is web-based, meaning even if you work on its app, you're working on the web and everything is saved in the cloud. When I open the app, guys, I can create a new one and set up a new project for myself. It provides us with a set of tools, guys. We're not supposed to learn all the features right now, just enough to get us started and become familiar with some of its tools. For the first step, I want to change my name. Change the name of the project I created. I'll write WP Plus project. Okay, I just Googled this. I have some tools up here, guys. And again, when I click on the tool, I need something called frame and section. I can create a series of frames. When I click on frame, it asks me on which device I want to perform this task. For example, I say a MacBook Pro. 2016, when I create it, it brings up an artboard page for me where I can also name it. For example, write home page. Okay, this becomes the name of the frame I have. Now, it has some settings for the frame itself, like what its position is, what its size is. Guys, usually one of the things we do is always start the frame with 1920 and set the height to 1080. Okay. Other things like whether its corners are rounded are not important for our frame because the frame becomes our window page. It has another feature. For example, I can set it like layouts or tell it from which direction to display the files I add. We don't deal much with this either. There's a grid section, guys. It has a layout grid where I can come here and define a grid. I always set this. Today I set the column mode and the number to 14. Guys, we have a concept on the website called a container, or the term full width and box. Usually when we work with full width and box, we need to specify a place for ourselves. We always set it to 14, and we never put any elements in the first and last cells if we want to work with a box. So, this grid helps us to be able to use it. I can now create it, activate, or deactivate it. It has a feature that allows me to set a background for each of my elements. It also has some other features. Guys, right now we don't have anything to do with this frame section. I just created a page for the first slide to get familiar with the options I have. Guys, it gives me some options. And I can make a square URL, a straight line, a curved line, draw a circle, or a triangle, or make a star. The main use of this with you guys is with this square line or circle. I can also add an image or video, but in the free or regular version, we can't do this. We definitely need to switch to the premium mode. However, since we just want to design, we'll do it with these tools. For example, I create a square, guys. On the right side, it gives me its position. But I don't deal with this position. If I want to move it, I drag it to wherever I want and place it there. And even if I want to center an element, it helps me here. Now I can choose its layer type, which we don't need to deal with either. One of the most useful aspects for us, guys, is the fill or the color we want to assign to it. I can define a color for it. Regarding the stroke, I can define a border for it. And I can define the border for each of my elements. How thick should my border be? Should it be inside or outside? The border is another topic. In this context, I use the border as an effect, which we use for shadows. I can define how the shadow should be. These are the tools I need for designing at least my site. And I can choose its spread. The lightness or darkness of the shadow that I am defining. And the last tool is export, which allows me to output the element I create in any format I need. These are all the tools we need. I have a text tool that I can use to place text wherever needed. I can adjust its size, make it smaller or larger, and assign the font I want to it. For example, Iran Sans X. Now, for instance, I can specify whether it should be bold or not, and its size. The line height spacing, the spacing between letters, which we usually set on the surface for Persian. The spacing of the first line and subsequent lines, which we don't really deal with. And a series of other tools, guys, that we don't really use much. There's also a fill tool where I can change its color scheme. Now, stroke, effect, and export, which we know what they are, exist for all the elements we create. There's also an element, guys, where I can add a P, that project that was created, and another option. Maybe in some places for learning CSS or where we want to apply CSS. This tool can help us. This upper tool has two modes. If I activate it, it gives me the code for this section, or for example, the background of this video header. It might be helpful for some parts. And this preview section, guys, shows us what the element we created looks like. We need to give it time to load. Sometimes it can't, but most of the time it can. This, guys, is just a very brief introduction to how I can work with this tool. It's a very easy process, and over time, your experience using it will increase. It has many plugins and add-ons that we can use. But as I said at the beginning, we are not supposed to work with these very professionally. We want to gradually gain experience, work little by little, and improve our skills. This managed to go here for me, those elements that I have now created, and it took a border, badwasum. Sometimes it says, I don't want to display in this mode that I have chosen myself. I can set the display type of my device in the prototype section to N, and the display should also be in general mode, and I can set this to full view, and see the things I'm creating. Now, guys, we are going to get a little familiar with this tool, and in the next session we want to create its wireframe, and start gradually building the wireframe for the project we've defined for ourselves, and see when it might be useful. Stay with us.